Okay, ma'am, we'll start now. We are in the last unit, Sale of Goods Act, and this is the next topic. I think on the other day I have told you all the meaning of this one. So the topic name is Rights of Unpaid Seller. The question will be asked like this: who is an unpaid seller? And explain the rights of an unpaid seller. So first we'll see the meaning, revise it once again, and then we'll come on to the rights. Okay, what do you mean by the word seller? We have already seen, we can see in the features of contract of sale. See here. Anybody read out now this point number 1, which we already covered long back? The features of contract. Anybody read out the first point?
There must be two different parties, that
Yes.
is the buyer and the seller.
Continue.
As per section 2, subsection 1, buyer means a person who buys or agrees to buy the goods. As per section 2, subsection 13, seller means a person who sells or agrees to sell the goods.
Yes, in the entire Sale of Goods Act, we were seeing only the two parties. So the two parties will be seller and the buyer, and there should be two separate parties. So who is a buyer? Buyer means a person who buys the goods or agrees to buy the goods. Seller means a person who sells the goods. So now we have even covered implied conditions and warranties. Remember this answer? We have seen this list of implied conditions and warranties. In all these points now, usually the buyer was the injured party. I mean to say seller was breaking the contract. Either the goods were of inferior quality or something, the goods were damaged and the buyer was the injured party. Now, we are going to see this answer where seller will be the injured party. So seller means already you know the meaning. Seller means a person who sells the goods or agrees to sell the goods. Now, who is an unpaid seller? Unpaid means what? Outstanding. The payment is not yet made. So who is an unpaid seller? It's there on the screen.
To whom the price is not paid.
So unpaid seller means what here? Seller, he sold the goods, but he has not yet received the payment. It means buyer has not yet made the payment. So the payment is still outstanding. Still the seller should get the amount. So it is something unpaid. That's the reason that seller will be called as what? Unpaid seller. Again, I'm repeating. The topic name, what we are covering now is rights of an unpaid seller. So who is an unpaid seller? Seller means a person who sells the goods. So obviously when the seller is selling the goods to so many customers, he has to receive the amount. He has to receive the payment. So when the seller has not yet received the payment, or when the seller has not yet received the amount, it is called as what? Unpaid, outstanding. Still he has to receive. And that seller fellow will be called as what? Unpaid seller. So unpaid seller is a person to whom the entire price is not yet paid. It means he has not yet received the entire amount. So now the question comes, what can the seller do? So it means here buyer is breaking the contract. Seller is the injured party. Now the question comes, what can the seller do? What are the rights available to him? What are the solutions available to him? What are the remedies available to him? So these are the remedies, or these are the rights, or these are the things what the seller can do if the buyer does not make the payment. Please everybody have a look at the entire chart. The rights of unpaid seller, it is divided into two categories. You can see on the left side and right side. Left side you have rights against the goods. Then right side you see rights against the buyer personally. So left side is something like what he can do with the goods, what the seller can do with the goods. Right side is what action the seller can take on the buyer. You can see again right against the goods. Again, it is divided into two categories. First one is when ownership is passed on to buyer. It means buyer has become the owner. Remember, we have done two definitions, sale and agreement to sell. So this is sale, where buyer has already become the owner. And this is agreement to sell. Agreement to sell means where buyer will become the owner at a later date. Remember, hire purchase example we have seen. So this is when the buyer has already become the owner, and this is when the buyer has not yet become the owner. So under this, again, you have three. These are something new words: right of lien, right of stoppage in transit, right of resale. Then when you come to this one, when ownership is not yet passed to buyer, there is only one right, that is withholding delivery of goods. Now coming to the rights against the buyer personally, we have 4 points now: suit for price, suit for damages, for non-acceptance of delivery, suit for repudiation of contract before due date, and the last right is suit for interest. So first we'll see this right side part, then we'll come to this one. So now we'll see this last side now. Rights against the buyer personally. It means if the buyer does not make the payment, what action the seller can take on the buyer. So the first one is simple, only the points. Suit for, you can see in all the 4 points, I'm doing this right side, first one. In all the points, you have this word as suit. Okay, what do you mean by the word suit?
Case.
So yes, suit is nothing but filing a case. Sue, you will say, S-U-E. S-U-E is nothing but filing a case. So what is the first right available to the seller? Seller can file a case on the buyer for the price of the goods. So the first right available to the seller is, suppose if the seller has sold the goods and the buyer has not yet made the payment, in spite of repeated requests, seller is making the request. See, still you have not yet made the payment. Maybe the seller has sent the notice also. If the buyer is staying in some other place, some other state, some other country, in spite of repeated notices, in spite of repeated requests, still if the buyer is not making the payment, then what is the option left to the seller? He can file a case for the price of the goods. Whatever is the price of the goods, I mean to say it will be 2 lakhs or 5 lakhs, the seller can go to court. Here, the seller is an injured party. Remember, the seller is an injured party. The seller can go to court and file a case on the buyer for the price. For the price. Then, what is the second? Anybody read out my second point? 1 second, I'll come. Yes. Second right, anybody read out? Anyone read out second point? Make it fast now. First one was suit for price. It means seller can file a case and claim the price of the goods, entire price of the goods. Second one, anybody read out, please?
Suit for damages for non-acceptance of delivery.
Yes. Don't think all the 4 rights the seller can exercise at the same time. Anyone, or maybe it may be a combination of rights. Now, what is the meaning of second one? Can anybody explain to me? Suit means filing a case. What is the meaning of damages? What is the meaning of damages? Unit 4 we have done. Yes, damages. Remember, we have done under Unit 4 modes of discharge of contract. Under that, one of the mode was breach of contract. What do you mean by breach? Breaking of contract. Remember, we have seen 2 types of actual breach, anticipatory breach. Either of the party can break the contract. So what can the injured party do? He has a right to claim compensation. So who should pay compensation to whom? The person who has broken the contract should pay compensation to the injured party. Here law word is damages, simple word is compensation, penalty, fine. So what is the second right available to the seller? Remember, again I'm stressing on the point in this answer, seller is the injured party. Buyer is the person who has broken the contract. So what is the meaning of the second one? It means here seller has made all arrangements to give the delivery of goods. Seller has packed the goods, everything, all arrangements has been done. And at the last moment, buyer is saying, I don't want delivery. I don't want the goods. Without any reason, without any proper reason. Suppose if buyer is refusing to take the delivery of goods with a proper reason, with a valid reason, then it is a different case. If the quality is not good, if the packing is not good, that is a different case. Then buyer definitely has a right to reject the goods, but without any proper reason. On time seller is giving the delivery, on time seller is ready to give the delivery, packing also is proper, quality also is good. Without any valid reason, if the buyer is refusing, not accepting the delivery of goods, seller is ready to give the delivery, seller has made all the arrangements, then in such case, seller has a right to file a case on the buyer and claim compensation also. No, it can be a combination of rights. He can claim the price as well as extra fine. Now you see, I mean to say any fees also, college ka fees or whatever it is. If you pay on time, no need to pay the fine. But if the last date is over, no examination fees also. Now you have to pay now. Once the last date is over, don't you think along with the examination fees, you have to pay some 100 or 200 rupees extra also? That is a fine. Why is that you have to pay the fine? Because you did not pay it on time. So same thing applies here also. So seller can have any one right or he can exercise combination of rights also. Now first right was he can claim the entire price, maybe completely 2 lakhs. Along with 2 lakhs, he can ask for penalty also, maybe 5,000 rupees, maybe 10,000 rupees. Maybe for the seller, some party was ready to purchase, but just because the seller has promised to you, he did not sell to the other party. So just because you refused, don't you think he has lost one party who was ready to purchase the goods? And last moment, if you say no, without any valid reason, it will be lost to the seller. So the second right, what can the seller have is, seller has a right to claim compensation. Damages is nothing but compensation. Then third right. Now, okay, one second. Before coming on to third right, I'll tell the fourth right. Again, it is a combination of right. See, either you can exercise 1 or 2 or 1 or 4 also. Now, what is the fourth one? Suit for interest. Suit for interest. Now, sometimes, if the seller is not getting the payment on time, then at the time of entering into agreement only, seller will say, you have to pay 1% interest or 2% interest. Why, simple one example we'll take. If you take loan from any individual or if you take loan from any bank, along with the principal amount, don't you think you have to pay interest also? If you take loan, don't you think you have to pay interest also? Same concept applies here also. So at the time of entering into agreement only, seller will say, on the due date, if you don't pay me the amount, then maybe I'll charge 1 month 1% interest or 2 months 2, like that. It will go on accumulating. So along with the price of the goods, seller, if he wants, he can file a case for interest also. Now, how much is the interest rate? All that the parties will decide at the time of entering into contract. So either the seller can exercise one of the right or he can exercise combination of rights. 2 rights at a time or 3 rights at a time. This will come later. Point number 2 will come later. That is last moment when the buyer is not ready to accept the delivery. This is something different. But first and fourth will go together. It depends upon the agreement between buyer and seller. Interest is not compulsory. Interest is not compulsory. It depends upon the agreement between buyer and seller. If they want, they'll mention the interest rate 5% or 6% on the contract paper. It depends upon how they agree. And suppose if they have agreed interest also, then the buyer, along with the price, he has to pay interest also. I mean to say, seller has a right to file a case for completely claiming the price. Along with the price, he can claim interest also. Then coming to third one. Anybody read out my third one?
Repudiation or cancellation of contract before due date.
Yes, please read out the particular sentence also.
If the buyer cancels the contract before the date of delivery of goods, then the seller can sue on the buyer for damages.
Yes, you can see the new word here, repudiation or repudiate. Repudiate is nothing but cancellation. Tell me what concept is coming to your mind. If you break the contract before the due date, that concept is called as?
Anticipatory breach.
Very good. It is called as anticipatory breach of contract. Remember, under Unit 4, we had one answer, modes of discharge of contract, different ways by which a contract will, discharge of contract means what? Contract coming to an end.
Yes, ma'am.
1 second. Let me show. Which I've asked for the internal also. Yes, you can see this. Yes. Everybody have a look onto the screen here. We have seen this in our Unit 4. Breach of contract means breaking of contract. It means the party will not perform his promise, not fulfill his promise, or the party will not do his duty, will not perform his obligation. In law words, it is called as breach. In simple words, it's called as breaking of contract. You can see here on the left side, the chart you can see, types of breach. Actual breach of contract and anticipatory breach of contract. What is the meaning of actual breach of contract? I gave it in the internal multiple choice also I gave. What's the meaning of actual breach of contract? When contract is broken on dash. Fill up the blank. On the very simple, Mark. You have only two words. On the due date or before the due date. So if you break the contract on the due date, that is called as what? Actual breach of contract. Then what is the meaning of anticipatory breach of contract? Before the due date only. Before the due date only, one party is breaking the contract. Otherwise, before the due date only, one party will inform the other party, I'm not going to perform the contract. So remember, breach of contract means breaking of contract. There are two types of breach of contract, actual and anticipatory. Actual means when you break the contract on the due date. See, we have seen these examples. You can see the example on the screen. We have covered long back. You can see here. A promises to sell and deliver 10 bags of rice to be on 31st December 2020. So 31st December 2020 is a due date. And B says, I'll make spot payment. So suppose on the due date, on 31st December morning only, A will tell B, I'm not going to supply the rice bags to you. So on the due date, on 31st December only, A is breaking the contract. A is saying, I'm not going to deliver. And same example now you can turn into anticipatory. Before 31st December only, you can see it. Same example as before 31st December, 1st November only. November will come before December. Right? So on 1st November only, A will tell B, I'm not going to deliver the rice bags to you. So that will be called as what? Anticipatory breach of contract. So same thing we are covering here. Third one is that only. Before the due date only, buyer is breaking the contract. Cancellation of contract before the due date. That is called as anticipatory breach of contract. So buyer is a fellow is breaking and seller is an injured party. So what can the seller do? Clearly it's mentioned here, you see. If the buyer cancels the contract before the date of delivery, it means before the due date, then the seller can sue. Sue is nothing but file a case on the buyer for damages. Damages again is nothing but compensation, monetary compensation. Buyer must pay to seller. I mean to say the person who breaks the contract should pay to the injured party. And here, without any, if any proper reason is there, then it is okay for cancelling the contract. But without any valid reason, if the buyer is simply breaking the contract, cancels the contract before the due date, then the seller has a right to claim compensation. So these are the 4 rights available to the seller against the buyer personally. We have finished off this right side part. Everybody have a look onto the screen. We are doing the answer, rights of unpaid seller. This right side we have finished off. So rights against the buyer personally, 4 are there. Suit for price, it means filing a case. Seller can file a case and claim the entire amount of the price. Second one is suit, filing a case for damages, for non-acceptance of delivery. It means buyer is not accepting the delivery. He is simply saying, I don't want the delivery without any proper reason. Then seller can file a case and claim compensation. Then third one is cancellation of contract before due date. That is nothing but anticipatory breach of contract. Before the due date only, buyer is cancelling the contract without any proper reason. And in such case, seller has a right to file a case and claim compensation. And the fourth one is suit for interest. Usually, first and fourth will go together. Suit for price and suit for interest. How much is the rate of interest? It will be decided by the parties at the time of entering into contract. So we are done with the right side. Now we are going on to this one. We are going in a reverse way. Now we'll come on to this. We have seen just now what action the seller can take on the buyer personally. That is filing a case for price, filing a case for damages, filing a case for interest. Now we'll see what can the seller do with the goods if the buyer does not make the payment. So come to the left side part, rights against the goods. Under this again you have 2. When ownership is passed to buyer and when ownership is not yet passed to buyer. Now let me ask you all, what is this concept called as? When ownership is passed to buyer, what is that concept called as? And when ownership is not yet passed to buyer, what is that concept called as? You can read this first 2 definitions. Read for yourself. The starting introduction we have seen 3 definitions. Our chapter 1 name was contract of sale. Please, anybody read out this contract of sale definition? Make it fast. Anyone read out this contract of sale definition?
As per section 4, subsection 1,
Yes.
It is a contract whereby the seller transfers or agrees to transfer the ownership or property in goods to the buyer for a price.
Yes. Contract of sale is not about transfer of ownership. That is, ownership is being transferred from the seller to the buyer. Now the question comes, when the ownership is transferred. I mean to say, when the buyer is becoming the owner. Either buyer can become the owner immediately or buyer can become the owner at a later date. Again, under this main definition, again we have 2 definitions. Please read out both the definitions now. First one is 2 important words. Already we covered this, but because that point has come, again I'm just revising. We have 2 words, sale and agreement to sell. We have seen the differences also. See here, this answer already we covered, but this once again I'm revising the 2 words. Please read out my definition of sale and definition of agreement to sell. Read out the pink color sentence.
Definition of sale.
Yes.
Seller transfers the ownership in goods to the buyer immediately.
Yes. Read the example also.
Cash sales.
Yes. So what is the meaning of, you need to know the meaning of 2 words, sale and agreement to sell. Sale means what? Buyer will become the owner immediately. It means seller is immediately transferring the ownership to buyer. Then again you have another word, agreement to sell. Please read out that one.
Seller transfers the ownership in goods to the buyer at a future time or date or subject to fulfillment of certain conditions.
Read the example also.
Hire purchase.
Yes. So second concept is agreement to sell. It means buyer is not becoming the owner immediately, but buyer is becoming the owner at a later date in future, or maybe after fulfilling certain conditions. And already we have seen hire purchase example. Nowadays, all the product is available on hire purchase. If a person is not having complete cash at a time, if you want to buy a car, 10 lakhs, if you don't have 10 lakhs at a time, seller is willing to sell the car to you on installment purchase. You might have heard about the word installment purchase. It means that 10 lakhs you can pay in installments. So tell me, in case of hire purchase, you can take the car, you can use the car, you can use the goods. But when will you become the owner? When the buyer will become the owner? Only after paying the last installment. Till that time, the ownership still remains with the seller. Now let me ask a question. You can see the note, this note for the answer. How to know whether it is sale or agreement to sell? Now I told simple example, cash sales, hire purchase, so it's very easy to say. But businessmen will enter into many contracts, no? Why is that we are stressing so much on the word ownership when it is transferred? Because simple logic, loss falls on the owner only. Loss falls only on the owner. If you give your bike to your friend, if that bike is lost or something happens to the bike, the loss falls on whom? The loss falls on you only. That's the reason why the concept of ownership is very, very important. If the buyer becomes the owner, then he only has to bear the loss. If the seller still remains the owner, then the risk falls on the seller only. So tell me, what did I tell you on? Usually in business, how will they decide this ownership, transfer of ownership? What did I tell you on? Is ownership anyway related to payment of price and delivery of goods? You mean to say like only if the price is paid, then only buyer will become the owner? Or only if he gets the delivery, then only buyer will become the owner? Is ownership anywhere related to payment of price and delivery of goods?
No.
No. So what did I tell you all? How will the parties decide? Whether it is sale or whether it is agreement to sell? Everybody, please have a look at this note. Please read out anybody the note. Make it fast. Anybody please read out the note.
At the time of signing the contract, the party should mention in the contract whether the contract is for sale or agreement to sell.
Yes, continue.
It is immaterial when the price is paid and when the delivery is given.
Yes, continue.
The price and delivery can be made immediately or may be postponed to a later date.
Yes, many people have a misconception that only when the price is paid, then only buyer will become the owner, or only when the delivery is given, then only. No. Payment of price and delivery of goods is nowhere related to ownership. If it is a small transaction, cash sales, hire purchase, easily you can see. But businessmen enter into thousands of transactions. So in the contract paper only they'll mention whether whatever contract they are entering into, is it a sale, is it an agreement to sell? If they mention it is a sale, then buyer will become the owner immediately. It doesn't matter whether he paid the price or delivery is given to him or not. If they mention in the contract paper like agreement to sell, then the buyer will become the owner at a later date. What is at later date? They'll mention, is it payment of after payment of last installment or after 5 months, after 6 months, they'll mention. So they will mention in the contract whether the concept is of sale, whether whatever contract they're entering into, is it for sale, is it for agreement to sell? And for the safer side of the buyer, it is better to enter into agreement to sell only. Because if it is sale, immediately buyer will become the owner, and if any loss occurs, he only has to bear it. But anyhow, that parties will decide. So that is what we are saying here. Rights, come back to the same answer. Rights against the goods, we are seeing the rights of unpaid seller. So this 3 rights is for sale. Sale means where the buyer has already become the owner. Now 1 right is for agreement to sell. Please see this 1 right. When ownership is not yet passed to buyer, it's nothing but agreement to sell. So you have only one right now. Please have a look at this one right. Withholding delivery of goods. Can anybody tell me what is the meaning of withholding delivery of goods? It means if the buyer does not make the payment, it seems, then seller can withhold the delivery of goods. So what is the meaning of withhold the delivery of goods?
Not delivering or stopping the
Yeah,
delivery.
withhold is nothing but not giving delivery. Very simple. Seller need not give the delivery. Suppose we both enter into agreement. I am the seller, you are the buyer. I am the seller, you are the buyer. You will come and tell me, ma'am, after 1 week, I'll come to your your office. I'll make the payment. I'll take the delivery of goods. That is what you promised me. Suppose if you don't come and make the payment, why will I give you delivery? I will not give. Simply, I will withhold. Withhold means I'll keep it myself only. I will not give the delivery. I'll keep the goods with myself only till you make the payment. Withhold. Stop. Withhold is but stop. I'll simply not give the delivery. Why should I give when you are not paying the price? So you have only one right, withholding delivery of goods. Then come to this side. I'm going in the descending order. Reverse way I'm going. So coming to this last one now. When ownership is passed to buyer, it means buyer has already become the owner. I mean to say in the contract paper only they mention it is for sale. Under that you have three rights, ma'am. Under that you have three rights. First one is right of lien. It's a new word. I don't know whether you have heard it or not before. Second one is right of stoppage in transit. And third one is right of resale. These are the rights what the seller will have if the buyer does not make the payment. Again, here also ma will go in the descending order. First we'll see right of resale, then we'll go on to this new terms. Can anyone tell me what is this right of resale? What's the meaning of resale? Reselling. Who will resell? Why
The
will
buyer.
Right of resale? Who will have? Reselling means what actually?
Madam, it is selling the goods which is already being sold or agreed to be sold in.
Yes. I mean to say it's again selling the goods again, ma.
Mostly the agent or wholesaler will have the right, or retailer.
I mean it's a wholesaler or retailer, he'll be a seller only. It means ma right of resale means you can see here this one is right of resale means the seller can again resell the goods. It means one example you see. I am the seller, you are the buyer. I sold the goods to roll number 1. I sold the goods to roll number 1. Roll number 1 has said, ma'am, I'll come after 1 week. I'll make the payment. And the goods are still with me only. We both have entered into contract. Now 1 week over, 2 weeks over, how long should I wait? Suppose if the goods are of perishable nature, like flowers, fruits, vegetables, or medicines, or dairy products. Even if I keep under refrigeration also, they will not even last for 2 or 3 days. How long should I wait? How long should I wait for roll number 1 to come and make the payment and take the goods? Okay, ma, if the goods are durable goods means like where they can stay for a long time, like electronic goods or whatever it might be. When I'm doing business, ma, 1 minute also, it matters a lot. If not you, I can sell it to some other party. Okay, just because you are my student, ma, I'll wait for 1 month. Okay, I'll wait for 2 months also. Maybe in that 2 months, ma, I got so many other parties who are willing to purchase my goods. But still, because I just gave a word to you, just because I entered into contract with you, I don't want to break it. In spite of repeated reminders, in spite of repeated notices, I'm keeping on, sending notice to you. See, we both have entered into contract. It's almost 1 month, 2 months. You are not even responding. Then what is that I can do? I can resell the goods. It means whatever goods I sold it to roll number 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, I can sell it to roll number 20, 25, 35 like that. It means already I sold it to you. Just because you are not making the payment, because you broke the contract, you are not responding to my notices. Why should I wait? When I'm getting a better party, I will sell it to somebody else. That is called as right to resell. Reselling the goods. Again selling the goods. So who will again sell the goods? Seller, ma. We are talking, that is what we are talking. Rights of unpaid seller. The topic name is what? Rights of unpaid seller. What can the seller do? So one right available to seller is he can resell the goods. Please, anybody read out this complete points, ma? Right of resale. Read out the two situations, ma, when the seller can resell the goods. Please read out.
When goods are of perishable nature.
Yes.
When he can give notice to the buyer of his intention to resell the goods, if the buyer
Yes.
does not respond to the notice within a reasonable period of time, then seller
Yes.
can resell the goods.
Yes. Now these are the two situations, ma, where the seller has a right to resell the goods. What are the two situations? First one is when the goods are of perishable nature. Just now I was telling you. The goods which can be spoiled very easily. Even under refrigeration also, ma, you can hardly keep for 1 or 2 days, not more than that. So if you're not making the payment, nor you're coming and taking the delivery, then I need not wait because the goods are like that. So I can resell the goods. So in case of perishable nature, ma, seller has a right to resell the goods. Then in case of other goods, ma, durable goods, I mean to say where the goods can stay for a long time. You see, bit number B, you see. Seller can give notice to buyer of his intention to resell the goods. This is very, very important, man. If the seller wants to resell the goods now, then definitely seller must inform the buyer. Seller must give notice to the buyer. See, the time has come, but still you have not yet made the payment, nor came and take the delivery. So if you don't respond to my notice, I am going to resell the goods. Seller must compulsorily give notice to the buyer. Suppose if the seller does not give notice to buyer and seller resells, then buyer can take advantage of the situation, though the buyer is wrong. So if you don't want yourself to be on the wrong side, better you have to give notice to the buyer, saying that as you are not responding to me, I'll be reselling the good. This is my last notice. This is the last notice to you. If you don't respond to me within 1 week, whether you're going to pay the price or not, if you're not responding to me, then I will resell the goods. So like that, seller can give notice to buyer of his intention to resell. And in spite of giving that notice also, if the buyer is not at all responding, not at all bothered to at least inform the seller what is the next step at least he wants to do. Is it financial problem or what? Nothing buyer is saying. And once that period of the notice also is over, 15 days notice, 20 days notice, then seller has a right to resell the goods. So these are the two situations now where seller can resell the goods. Resell means again selling the goods. It means first the seller sold to first party. Because the first party broke the contract, because the first party is not responding, first party is not paying the price, not taking the delivery, then seller will have a right to resell. In case of perishable goods, no need to give any sort of notice. By the time notice given, the goods will be spoiled only. Only in case of durable goods, the notice should be given. And if the buyer still does not respond to the notice, then seller can resell the goods. Now coming to the first one, right of lien and right of stoppage in transit. Sometimes they can ask the difference between these two. Difference between right of lien and right of stoppage in transit. First we'll see this right of lien. Have you ever heard this word lien anytime?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what exactly you mean by the word lien?
Ma'am,
In banking, yeah.
Ma'am, it is a kind of claim, ma'am. It is a legal right.
Yes. Okay,
And
it's
it
a
is
kind of claim. Can you
yeah,
explain to me with an example?
yes, ma'am. If I'm the seller and you are the
Huh?
buyer, okay, and I am gonna be giving you the delivery only if you have paid the amount to me, but
Huh?
you paid the amount, so I can exercise this right of lien and keep the possession of the goods until you have exercised your duty to pay the amount to me.
Huh.
That is what.
So you can exercise this right. Seller can exercise this right of lien, you mean to say.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, exactly correct. Can anyone still explain in very simple words? Now, lien is a law word. Actually, lien, you might have studied in banking subject. Usually, a banker will have this right. You'll call it as banker's lien.
Right against asset.
Right against the asset. Yeah, exactly. So what exactly you mean by that? If it is a bank, banker will have this right.
It's collateral security, ma'am.
Yes, you are right. Can you frame an example of this in case of bank? Then we'll come to this unpaid seller. Can anyone make a guess, ma? I'm giving an example. This is
Ma'am,
something
loan.
relating to bank. Lien word, ma, usually you use for the word bank. Can you frame
Yes,
an
ma'am.
example? Correct only, you people, what you said. Security.
Ma'am, if I take loan from a bank, they will
Yes.
ask something in return, like to keep it
Security.
their
Huh.
possession in case if you are not willing to pay the loan or you're not able to pay the loan. So loan, like return the amount to the bank, they will keep that collateral security or the lien which they have kept in return of instead of the loan, they can keep it in position.
Yes, exactly. So just I'll repeat, ma. Usually, ma, the word lien, ma, it is a banking terminology. It's called as banker's lien. Lien means keeping with yourself only. Normal English, if you say, lien means keeping the things in your custody. Keeping the goods with yourself only. It means you are keeping the goods in your possession, ma, in your custody. It means you're not giving off. Now, example, bank will take. Now, ma, if you have taken house loan or education loan or whatever it is, you kept something as security and took loan. Example, ma, I took my gold ornaments, I kept my gold ornaments as security and I've taken loan from the bank. I've kept my gold ornaments as security and I took loan from the bank of 20 lakhs. Now my gold ornaments are in the custody of, see, I'm only the owner. Bank is only having the custody of the ornaments, man. I'm still the owner. Because I'm in urgent need of money. That's the reason I kept my gold ornaments as security with the bank and I took loan. Now, the gold ornaments are, just see the words I'm using, man. The gold ornaments are in the possession of the banker. Possession means what? Custody. So, if I repay the 20 lakhs on time, bank will return the ornaments back to me. Bank will give back my ornaments to me. Suppose if I am not repaying the loan of 20 lakhs, due date is over. Again, the bank is, after due date is over, again the bank will remind me, na, see, due date is over. Bank has already sent me 2 notices. First notice it has sent, I'm not responding because I don't have amount to repay. Second notice bank has sent, I'm not responding. So tell me, ma, if I'm not repaying the 20 lakhs of loan, whatever I've taken, by keeping the gold ornaments as security, do you think the bank manager will have that much big heart where he will invite me and tell, madam, it's okay. Even if you have not repaid the loan also, it's okay. But your gold ornaments are in our custody. Please come one fine day and take away your gold ornaments. Do you think bank authorities will have that much big heart? Bank authorities will give back my ornaments without repaying the loan? No. Definitely not. No. Definitely not. So point what I want to say is, till you repay the loan, bank will have this right. What is this right? Right of lien. Right of lien is what? Bank will keep the ornaments with itself only till you repay the loan. It means bank will keep the ornaments in its custody. Bank will keep the ornaments in its possession, not position, possession. Possession. Possession is nothing but custody. So till you repay the loan, ornaments, gold ornaments will be with bank only. My ornaments will be with bank only. It means bank will not give the ornaments to me. It will keep it itself. So lien is nothing but keeping with yourself. Who will keep the goods with itself? A bank. Same concept applies to unpaid seller also. Same concept applies to unpaid seller also. Suppose seller has, you think I'm the seller, you are the buyer. We have entered into agreement. And it is a sale. It means you have become the owner. That is what we have mentioned in the contract paper. And you tell me, ma'am, after 1 week, today is Monday. Next Monday, ma'am, I'll come for sure. I'll pay the price and I'll take the delivery. And suppose I'm giving an imaginary situation. We have entered into contract today. Today is January 4th. February 4th, we decided the due date. You said, ma'am, on February 4th, I'll come to your office. I'll make the payment and I'll take the delivery of goods. It means till February 4th, the goods are with me only in my godown. The goods are in my warehouse. Suddenly, I'm giving an imaginary situation. Tell me, what can I do? Suddenly, after 10 days, I come to know that a news has come in the newspaper that the buyer, I mean to say you, have incurred huge loss and you have become insolvent. Now, our contract is of 1 crore deal. You have incurred a huge loss and you have become insolvent. Tell me, what should I do as a seller? Do you think
Ma'am, the seller, is he a businessman, or maybe he will have the option to hire an insolvency profession?
No. Here, my buyer has become insolvent, not seller. Buyer become insolvent.
Okay, fine.
Here, a situation is, I said, ma'am, today we have entered into contract. February 4th, buyer said, ma'am, I'll come to your shop and I'll take the delivery. Buyer became insolvent. After 10 days, I come to know that you became insolvent. So if buyer has become insolvent, he will not be able to pay the amount now. But I have kept the goods ready for you. The goods are in my custody only. So what will I do as a seller, though you are my student? The goods are in my custody only. So what is this point number 1? If I come to know that you have become insolvent,
he can keep the goods.
Very simple. I can keep the goods with myself only because the goods are in my custody. Even if you come and ask me also, ma'am, anyhow you are my student now. Anyhow, I'm your student now. So why don't you give the delivery? So I'll just simply say no. As you have become insolvent, first you get the amount and then only you can take the delivery. It means I will keep the goods with myself only. I will not give the delivery to you. Anybody read out this meaning? The first The first,
Madam, people in the chat box are revolting as it is time already.
it's over, huh? Is it over?
Yes, ma'am. But
I'm very
today's
sorry.
topic
I'm
was
very sorry.
literally interesting. That is why.
Yes. I did not see the time. We'll continue. I think ma'am might has come.